I was standing in front of the mirror adjusting my tie for the third time. My wedding day. The happiest day of my life, right? And it was. But there was something else too. A quiet anticipation that had nothing to do with saying I do. For 32 years, I had been invisible in my own family. Today, everyone would finally see me. Not as Ivy's little brother, just me. Before we begin, let me know where you are watching from today. Hit that like button and subscribe if you have not already. Now let me take you back to where it all started. I grew up in a quiet suburb outside Chicago, Illinois. My father worked as an accountant at an insurance company, and my mother was a part-time nurse at a local clinic. We were not rich, but we were comfortable. A nice house with a backyard, 2 cars in the driveway, the kind of life that looks perfect from the outside. Ivy came into this world 4 years before me. From the stories my parents told over and over again, she was born beautiful, alert, and already destined for greatness. My mother used to say that Ivy smiled at her within the first hour of being born, as if she knew she was special. My arrival was different. I was born small, underweight, and struggling to breathe. The doctors rushed me to the intensive care unit where I spent my first 2 weeks of life in an incubator. My mother once joked at a family dinner, Ivy came out like an angel. This one made me worry I would lose him before I even got to know him. Everyone laughed. I was 12 years old, and I did not find it funny. The signs of favoritism appeared early, though I did not have words for it then. When I was 5 and Ivy was 9, she started piano lessons at a music school downtown. I remember watching her practice on the shiny black piano my parents rented her, fingers dancing across the keys while my mother watched with pride. One evening, I asked if I could learn guitar. I had seen a boy at school playing one, and something about it called to me. My father did not even look up from his newspaper. We cannot afford lessons for both of you. Maybe when you are older. I never asked again. Our bedrooms told the story of our different places in the family. Ivy had the large room at the end of the hallway with big windows that let in morning sunlight and a view of the garden my mother tended with care. My room was small, wedged between the bathroom and the storage closet. The single window faced the neighbor's fence. I told myself it did not matter. I told myself a lot of things back then. Birthdays were when the difference became impossible to ignore. Ivy's birthdays were events. My parents would rent out the community center or a restaurant, invite her friends, our relatives, even some of the neighbors. There would be a custom cake from the fancy bakery across town, decorations that matched a theme, and a pile of presents that took her hours to open. My birthdays were quieter. A family dinner, maybe a store-bought cake if my mother remembered to pick one up. One year when I turned 8, my birthday fell on the same day as Ivy's school piano recital. She was performing a complicated piece she had been practicing for months, and my parents would not miss it. "We will celebrate your birthday this weekend," my mother promised as she rushed out the door with Ivy. That weekend came and went. No one mentioned my birthday again. I spent the actual day eating cereal alone in the kitchen, watching cartoons, pretending it did not hurt. The comparisons never stopped. Every dinner conversation circled back to Ivy. Her grades, her awards, the compliments her teachers gave. When I brought home a report card with straight A's in 5th grade, my father glanced at it and said, "Good job." Then he turned to my mother. "Did you hear what Mrs. Patterson said about Ivy's essay? She said it was the best she had read in 20 years of teaching." I learned to make myself smaller at that table, to eat quickly and excuse myself before the Ivy highlight reel began. In middle school, I tried a different approach. If academics would not get their attention, maybe sports would. I joined the basketball team and discovered I was actually good at it. Not star player good, but good enough to start good enough that my coach said I had real potential if I kept working. I told my parents about my first game, marking the date on the kitchen calendar myself. That Friday night, I scanned the bleachers during warm-ups looking for their faces. They were not there. After the game, which we won, and in which I scored 12 points, I found out they had gone to see Ivy receive an award at her high school honors ceremony. You understand, right? My mother said when I confronted her. This was a big moment for your sister. There will be other games. There were other games. They never came to a single one. When I was 14, Ivy got accepted to Northwestern University with a full academic scholarship. My parents threw a party that felt more like a wedding reception than a graduation celebration. They rented a banquet hall, hired a caterer, and invited everyone they knew. Relatives drove in from 3 states away. Neighbors who barely knew us showed up with gifts and congratulations. I stood in a corner of that party for 4 hours, nursing the same cup of soda, watching my parents beam as they introduced Ivy to guest after guest. Not once did anyone ask about me. Not once did my parents bring me into a conversation. I was furniture, part of the background. That night, something shifted inside me. I stopped hoping things would change. I stopped waiting for my parents to notice me. Instead, I retreated into myself, spending hours alone in my small room, finding solace in the one thing that asked nothing of me, but gave back everything I put in computers. I discovered programming through a library book, a dusty paperback about basic coding that someone had probably donated years ago. Something about the logic of it appealed to me. Unlike my family code, made sense. If you did the right things in the right order, you got the right results. There was no favoritism, no moving goalposts, no being overlooked because someone else was shinier. I taught myself to code using library books and free tutorials online. By 16, I was building simple programs and websites. By 17, I had created an app that helped students organize their homework assignments. It was not revolutionary, but it was mine. That same year, I entered a statewide programming competition. I did not tell my parents. I had learned by then that sharing my achievements only led to disappointment. I worked on my project for months, staying up late, skipping hangouts with the few friends I had, pouring everything into this one chance to prove I could excel at something. I won 3rd place. Out of over 200 competitors from across Illinois, I came in 3rd. They gave me a medal and a certificate, and one of the judges, a software developer from a major tech company, told me I had real talent. I drove home that day with the medal in my pocket, my heart pounding with something I had not felt in years: hope. Maybe this would be different. Maybe this was big enough that they would have to see me. I walked through the front door just as my mother was hanging up the phone, her face glowing with excitement. Ivy just called, she announced to my father, who had come in from the living room. She got accepted for a summer internship at Morrison & Burke. Can you believe it? One of the best law firms in Chicago, and they picked her. My father's face lit up. That is my girl. We should do something special for her when she comes home. I stood in the doorway, the medal suddenly heavy in my hand. Mom, Dad, I started. My mother glanced at me. Oh, you are home. Good. Set the table for dinner, would you? I tried again. I was at that competition today, the programming one I mentioned last month. That is nice, honey. She was already walking toward the kitchen. Did you wash your hands? I pulled out the medal. I won 3rd place. Out of the whole state. My father looked at it for maybe 2 seconds. Good for you. Now come help your mother. They never mentioned it again. I kept that medal in my desk drawer for years, a reminder of the moment I finally accepted the truth. No matter what I did, I would never be enough. When it came time to apply for college, I aimed high. My grades were excellent. My extracurriculars included the programming achievements I had accumulated over the years, and my essays were strong. I applied to several schools and got accepted into the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, one of the best computer science programs in the country. They even offered me a partial scholarship, but partial meant there was still a significant amount to pay. I sat down with my parents one evening, my acceptance letter and financial aid package spread out on the kitchen table. If you could help with the remaining tuition, I said, keeping my voice steady, I can cover my own living expenses with a part-time job. My father sighed, rubbing his forehead. The timing is not great. We are still paying for Ivy's law school. I blinked. But she had a full scholarship for undergrad. For undergrad, yes, but law school is different. She got into a top program, and those do not come cheap. I did some quick math in my head. You are paying full tuition for her law school. My mother jumped in. Ivy's future depends on this. A law degree from a prestigious school opens doors. You have to understand. What about the money you saved for me? I asked. I knew they had started college funds for both of us when we were born. Relatives had contributed over the years, birthday money and holiday gifts earmarked for education. My parents exchanged a look. We had to reallocate some funds, my father said carefully. Law school is 3 years, and the tuition is substantial. Some funds. They had taken my college fund to pay for Ivy's education. I did not argue. I did not cry. I simply gathered the papers from the table and went to my room. The next day, I started applying for jobs. I worked 2 part-time jobs throughout my 4 years of college. I was a teaching assistant for introductory programming courses, and I worked night shifts at a campus computer lab. I ate cheap food, lived in the smallest apartments I could find, and graduated with a degree, a mountain of student loans, and absolutely no help from my family. Not once did they ask if I was okay. Not once did they offer to help when they saw how thin I had gotten from stress and poor nutrition. But every holiday when I came home, they had plenty of stories about Ivy's success, her cases, her trajectory toward partnership. After graduation, I got a job offer from a tech company in Seattle. It was a good offer, better than I had expected, and it was 3,000 miles away from Chicago. I took it without hesitation. Seattle became my home in a way Chicago never was. I worked hard, learned quickly, and discovered that in the professional world, results mattered more than family politics. By the time I was 28, I had been promoted to team lead, managing a group of 10 developers working on projects that reached millions of users. I bought a small apartment in Capitol Hill, furnished it with things I chose myself, and built a life that was entirely mine. My parents called occasionally, mostly around holidays, and the conversations were always the same. After a few minutes of pleasantries, they would pivot to Ivy, her promotions, her cases, her accomplishments. Did you hear Ivy made senior associate? My mother would ask. Or Ivy is thinking about buying a house in Lincoln Park. Can you imagine? I would make appropriate sounds of acknowledgement and find excuses to end the call. I had stopped hoping for more. Then I met Hannah. It was at a tech conference, one of those events where people network over bad coffee and try to exchange business cards without seeming desperate. I was standing near the back of a presentation room checking my phone when someone bumped into me from behind. I am so sorry. She turned around, face flushed with embarrassment. I was trying to sneak out and I did not see you. She had warm brown eyes and paint stains on her fingers that she clearly had not noticed. Her name tag said Hannah, and her title said graphic designer. Sneaking out, I asked, is the presentation that bad? She laughed. Let us just say I have heard the phrase synergistic solutions about 15 times too many. We ended up getting coffee together, then dinner, then spending the entire weekend talking about everything and nothing. Hannah was unlike anyone I had ever met. She listened like what I said mattered. She asked questions about my work, my interests, my life, and actually paid attention to the answers. 3 months into dating, I told her about my family. We were lying on my couch, and the story spilled out of me like water from a broken dam. All of it. The favoritism, the neglect, the meddle. No one cared about the college fund they gave to Ivy. Hannah did not interrupt. She did not try to fix it or explain it away. When I finished, she pulled me closer and said simply, "You deserved better. You still do." In that moment, I knew I would marry her. But the first I had to introduce her to my family. Ivy had gotten engaged 6 months before I met Hannah to a cardiac surgeon named Bradley, who came from old money and had the personality of a saltine cracker. My parents were over the moon. The wedding would be the social event of the year, according to my mother. When Ivy announced her engagement party, I decided to bring Hannah home to meet everyone. Part of me knew it was a mistake, but another part wanted to believe that maybe, just maybe, things had changed. They had not. The engagement party was held at an upscale restaurant downtown. Hannah wore a beautiful green dress, and I could tell she was nervous but trying not to show it. We walked in together, and I spotted my family immediately clustered near Ivy, like planets around a sun. "Mom, Dad," I said, approaching them. "I want you to meet Hannah." My mother glanced at Hannah, offered a brief smile, and turned back to the person she had been talking to. My father shook Hannah's hand without really looking at her. "Nice to meet you." He checked his watch. "The toast is starting soon." Throughout the evening, not a single member of my family made an effort to talk to Hannah. When I tried to join conversations, the topic always shifted back to Ivy, her dress, her ring, her plans for the wedding. The worst moment came when I overheard my mother introducing me to one of Ivy's colleagues. "This is Ivy's brother," she said. I listened for my name. It never came. Later, Ivy herself approached us. She looked Hannah up and down with barely concealed judgment. "So you are dating my little brother," she said. "What do you do?" "I am a graphic designer," Hannah replied, keeping her voice friendly. Ivy's eyebrows rose. "Oh," she drew out the word. "That sounds creative." The way she said it made creative sound like a disease. On the drive home, Hannah was quiet for a long time. Finally, she said, "I understand now. What you grew up with. I am so sorry." I reached for her hand. "You have nothing to apologize for. They are who they are." She squeezed my fingers. "You are nothing like them, you know. I hope you know that." 3 months later, I proposed. Hannah said yes before I even finished the question. I called my parents to share the news. My mother answered on the 4th ring. "Mom, I have some news. Hannah and I are engaged." There was a pause. "Oh, well, congratulations. We are thinking about a June wedding," I continued. "In Seattle, where we live." "June," my mother's voice sharpened. "That will not work. Ivy is planning a big birthday celebration for Bradley that month. Something about his 40th. You will have to pick a different time." I sat with the phone pressed to my ear, letting her words sink in. A birthday party for my sister's fiancé was more important than my wedding. "I will let you know what we decide," I said, and hung up. Hannah was watching me from across the room. "What did she say? June does not work for them. Ivy has plans." Hannah's face went through several emotions before settling on something fierce. "It is your wedding. Ours. We do not need their permission." She was right. We picked a date in late June and sent the invitations. I did not ask my parents for anything. Not money, not input, not approval. For the first time in my life, I was going to have something that was entirely mine. The wedding day arrived, and with it, my family. They flew in from Chicago, staying at a hotel downtown. I had not given them any special roles in the ceremony. No father of the groom's speech, no mother pinning a flower to my lapel. They were guests, nothing more. Ivy showed up in a white dress, not cream, not ivory. White. The same shade as Hannah's wedding gown. I saw Hannah's mother gasp when Ivy walked in, but Hannah just squeezed my hand. "It does not matter," she whispered. "She can wear whatever she wants. This day is ours." During the reception, my mother approached me. "I would like to say a few words," she said. "Give a toast or something." I shook my head. "The program is already set. We have speakers lined up." Her eyes narrowed. "You are letting Hannah's mother speak, but not me. Hannah's mother has been part of our lives," I said, keeping my voice even. "She helped us plan this wedding. She was there when we picked out flowers and tasted cakes and addressed invitations." I looked at my mother. "Where were you?" She had no answer. The time came for the toasts. Hannah's father gave a beautiful speech about love and partnership. Her mother shared a story about seeing the way Hannah lit up when she talked about me. Friends spoke about our journey together. Then it was my turn. I stood up, heart pounding, and looked out at the room full of people. Hannah's family, our friends' colleagues who had become like family. and there at a table near the back my parents and Ivy faces expectant. I did not plan to say what I said, but standing there looking at the people who had actually shown up for me, the words came. "Thank you all for being here today," I began. "This is the happiest day of my life, and I want to take a moment to acknowledge the people who made it possible." I smiled at Hannah's parents. "Thank you for raising the woman I love and for welcoming me into your family like a son." I nodded at our friends. "Thank you for the late nights, the encouragement, the belief that I deserved happiness." I paused, feeling the weight of the moment. Growing up, I learned early that I would have to create my own place in this world. I worked 2 jobs through college because there was no safety net waiting for me. I moved across the country because I needed space to become who I was meant to be. There were years when I felt invisible, when I wondered if I would ever be seen for who I really am. The room was silent. I could feel my parents' eyes on me. Standing here today, next to the woman who loves me for exactly who I am, I finally understand something. I looked at Hannah, at her beautiful face, at the tears in her eyes. Family is not just blood. Family is the people who show up, the people who choose you every single day. I raised my glass. To Hannah, my family, my home. And to everyone in this room who helped me find my way, thank you. The applause was thunderous. Hannah was crying, her mother was crying. Even some of my gruff tech colleagues were wiping their eyes. I did not look at my parents' table. I did not need to. Later, as Hannah and I cut the cake, Ivy appeared beside me. "That was quite a speech," she said, her voice sharp, very dramatic. I met her eyes. It was honest. "You basically told everyone that Mom and Dad were terrible parents." I said what was true. I kept my voice calm. For the first time in my life, I spoke about my experience without apologizing for it. Ivy's face twisted. "You always had to make everything about you." The irony was so thick, I almost laughed. "Today is my wedding day, Ivy. Today is supposed to be about me." I paused. "But you would not know what that feels like, would you? Having a day that was not about you." She stared at me, mouth open, genuinely stunned. In 32 years, I had never spoken to her like that. I had never spoken to anyone in my family like that. I turned back to my bride. "If you will excuse me, I have a first dance to get to." My parents left early without saying goodbye. I noticed their empty seats halfway through the dancing and felt nothing but relief. The months after the wedding were strange. For the first time in my life, I was not bracing for disappointment from my family because I had stopped expecting anything at all. At first, the silence from Chicago was painful. Holidays came and went without calls. My birthday passed without a single message. Part of me, the little boy who just wanted his parents to notice him, grieved for the relationship I would never have. But Hannah was there. Her family embraced me completely. Her father took me fishing and asked about my work with genuine interest. Her mother sent care packages with homemade cookies and notes that said things like, "Thinking of you both." I had dinner with them every Sunday when they visited Seattle, and slowly the wound of my own family's absence began to close. I also leaned into the family I had built for myself. Friends who had become brothers and sisters, colleagues who celebrated my successes and supported me through failures. I had people who showed up for me, and I made sure to show up for them too. 2 years after my wedding, I received an unexpected email from my father. It was short, only a few sentences. "I have been thinking a lot about the past," it read. "I know we were not always fair to you. I am sorry. No excuses, no explanations, just those words." A few weeks later, my mother called. Her voice was different, smaller somehow. "I heard from Ivy that you bought a house." "We did," I said, "last month." "That is wonderful." A pause. "I am happy for you." It was the first time I could remember her saying that without immediately redirecting the conversation to Ivy. I learned later that Ivy's life had taken some difficult turns. Her marriage to Bradley had ended after less than 2 years. Something about him having an affair with a colleague. Her trajectory toward partnership at her law firm had stalled. The golden child was discovering that the world did not always arrange itself around her desires. I did not take pleasure in her struggles. I had spent too many years being defined by my position relative to her, and I was done with that. Her successes were no longer my failures. Her failures were not my victories. She was simply a person I used to know living a life that had nothing to do with mine. My parents reached out more often after that. Short calls at first, then longer ones. They visited Seattle once, meeting Hannah properly, seeing the life we had built. My mother cried when she saw our house, and I chose to believe those were tears of genuine emotion rather than regret for what she had missed. I have not fully forgiven them. I am not sure I ever will. But I have let go of the anger that used to consume me. It was too heavy to carry, and it was not serving me anymore. I have chosen to keep them at a healthy distance, close enough to maintain a relationship, far enough to protect myself from more hurt. The sweetest revenge, I have learned, is not a dramatic confrontation or a public humiliation. It is simply this: building a life so full of love and purpose that the people who overlooked you become irrelevant to your happiness. On my wedding day, I did not set out to make my family feel bad. I simply told the truth. I acknowledged the people who had actually been there for me, and in doing so, made visible the absence of those who had not. If that made them uncomfortable, that was not my responsibility. If you are watching this and you see yourself in my story, I want you to know something. Your worth is not determined by whether the people who should love you choose to see it. You are not obligated to keep seeking approval from people who have shown you again and again that they will not give it. You are allowed to build your own family, to choose your own people, to create a life that reflects your actual value. And when you find those people, the ones who love you for exactly who you are, hold on to them. Protect those relationships. Nurture them. Because that is where real happiness lives. So here is my question for you. Have you ever had to create your own family because the one you were born into could not see your worth? I would love to hear your stories in the comments below. And if this video resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Share it with someone who might need to hear this message today. Your support means everything. Thank you for watching, and thank you for listening. Whatever you are going through, I hope you find your people. I hope you find your home. And I hope you truly know that you are enough. Exactly as you are. Take care of yourselves.